Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Well, I was in a good mood today, and I hope I still am after I talk about anger some more. I've had a couple of videos here going through a series I'm going to call Temper Your Emotions with Your Filipina Wife. And I said that I was going to talk about my test scores for an anger test, and I will do that here today. Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea. I'm here to help men learn about overseas dating. Dating a woman in the Philippines. I got married in 2015, got married very quickly. There are some things my wife probably didn't know about me, and it works both ways, but one of them was my temper. There are things that bother me, and I know there's things that bother you, so I want to talk about that here today as quickly as I can, but it will probably take some time. Here's what I learned from my score, and I will have that test and some other links for you at the top of the description box. Now, I have developed high blood pressure recently and been taking some medication for it. And I don't know why it happened necessarily, but some things are clear from the results that I took on this test that I got back merely by looking at the answers. They have them lined up one on top of the other and analyzing them left to right. I wish I could show you a screenshot here, but I do not know how to do that. Now, there were 25 questions, and there were only 3 out of 25 that bothered me not at all or just a little bit. Those tended to be situations where there was an honest mistake by me or others. That really doesn't move my needle at all. The moderate column is where I put some dots where I wasn't particularly moved one way or the other, or where I thought I needed some more information to be able to, make a definitive score there. I found out that most of my points accumulated in the very much category, and have always, as long as I've lived, either involved a lack of closure or some kind of misunderstanding that I am unable to resolve that involves someone being rude or unkind or getting notifications like that. In other words, a lack of closure. That bothers me. Whether it is being stuck in traffic or someone thinking I did something that I didn't, I'm not able to convince them. What angers me the most is a lack of resolution or lack of understanding. Same difference. Unable to complete a task or unable to be understood. How can this help me in my marriage to my amazing Isa? I need to reach a point in an argument where I understand it is fruitless and unhealthy to try to go any further. I've done the best I can. That's all I can do. That's hard to do because deep down inside is the sense that if I try harder or do something different, I can get the result that I want. It bothers me if I am misunderstood because that means incompleteness. I feel like I need to be more convincing to get closure. This tendency or bent or character flaw, the flip side is intense effort to accomplish something. That's a good thing. But this tendency can be problematic in an argument where I feel like I just can't get my wife to see things my way, or that something isn't getting done. Either way, I feel like there's unfinished business, which makes me want to try harder, but at some point, that just becomes insane. My wife is good at getting things done, but if she drags her feet on something, that, can make me irritable. If I want her to make an appointment with a doctor or something like that, and she hasn't done that, that can gnaw at me. It is critical that I understand, excuse me, that especially when married, and see how that could make me hard to live with when that happens and try to deal with it. Now, I had a score of 80, and I gather that's kind of a high score at the time I took this, which was a couple years ago. It was lower a couple other times, but I did this one after I thought about the questions more, so we're just going to go with the score. I had, of these 25 questions, how much you would be angered in these situations. It went from not at all to little, moderate amount in the middle there, and then much, and then very much. So I had the highest score, 12 in the very much category and 3 in the much category. So I had 15 points out of the much and very much category and only 10 in the first 3 categories. And none of this really surprised me. For example, if you take this test, and I think you should, you'll learn about yourself and you'll see things maybe more clearly. It says you unpack an appliance you have just bought, plug it in, and discover that it doesn't work. That would bother me much. I put 3, probably could have put, I put much. I probably could have picked the very much category and even increase my score even more. Why? It should work. I don't understand it. Now I can't move on to something else. I don't have closure. I just don't get it. So that would bother me. Something like being overcharged by a repair person who has you over a barrel. Yeah, moderate amount there. You'd like to get closure, but you can always just say, okay, they overcharged me, I'm done with it. Then you have closure. So I put that in the medium category. Another question here was being singled out for a correction while the actions of others go unnoticed. I put very much so. That bothers me because I think there's a lack of closure there when there's an improper understanding of the situation. If we really understood this fully, so-and-so did that too. So that would bother me a lot. Getting your car stuck in mud or sand, yeah, that's bothersome. Excuse me, having this stupid nasty cough, that bothers me a lot. How about this one? You are talking to someone and they don't answer you. What do you think that's going to do for my score? It's going to raise it and my blood pressure. That would be a 5 category. Very much bothers me. Talking to someone, they don't answer you because I can't get closure. Somebody's not going to communicate. So lack of communicate, tempo, that sort of thing, that would drive me crazy. Someone pretends to be something they're not. Yeah, it bothers me that people aren't real and genuine, but I put that in the middle category. Another one here, while you are struggling to carry 4 cups of coffee to your table at a cafeteria, someone bumps into you spilling the coffee. That doesn't bother me at all. Just clean up the coffee, get it done and go. They weren't doing it intentionally. That just doesn't bother me at all. You have hung up your clothes, someone knocks them to the floor and fails to pick them up. It's no big deal. You're hounded by a salesperson from the moment you walk in the store. That's just a mild thing to me, because if you actually are there and don't know where you're looking and don't want to take half an hour to do it, you can ask that salesperson. There are some places you're lucky to find a salesperson. So actually having a salesperson hounding me doesn't sound like that bad of an idea. How about this one? You have made arrangements to go somewhere where a person who backs off at the last minute and leaves you dangling. Yeah, that's a high anger score for me there. Why? Because you didn't get closure. They didn't show up. Are they going to show up? When are they going to show up? And why didn't they communicate that they weren't going to show up? Lack of closure frustrates me to death. Used to always bother me when going to the gym when I was younger and trying to have a partner who you would go lift with. Finally, I decided that just wasn't worth it because I couldn't get anybody to stick to the schedule. So that's a frustrating thing. Being joked about or teased, nobody likes that, but I was kind of right in the middle on that one. Your car is stalled at a traffic light and the person behind you keeps blowing his horn. Well, if they're blowing it at me, that would upset me, but more of me being upset would be that I can't move, can't get closure. I can't get to where I'm trying to go. Another question here, or situation. You accidentally make the wrong kind of turn in a car park. As you get out of your car, somebody yells at you, "Where did you learn to drive?" Well, that would bother me because of what they said, but mostly if I I don't know, can't get out of there. And some of these car parks, I've gone around and around and around. It's like, where in the heck is the exit? Thought I knew where to go. Some of those, or even worse, Where did I park my car? I go park somewhere and it's like, I'll remember and get back there, and I have no idea where my car is. That's happened more than a few times, and that is very frustrating. This one here, someone makes a mistake and blames it on you or me. How does that make me feel? Well, that was a high anger category. They blame it on me. Why? Well, number one, they don't know the truth. If it was a mistake and I was blamed, then it wasn't my fault. And number two, now I have to correct them in thinking that it was my fault. So there's unfinished business. It's unnecessary unfinished business, but it has to be dealt with, I suppose. So that causes a lot of stress. Another one here, this list here that I will link for you in the description box. You were trying to concentrate, but a person near you is tapping their foot. Well, that's not the greatest thing in the world. If they're coughing a lot, I suppose that would be a problem. But that's I don't know. It's only bad if it begins to slow me down and take me away from getting closure. You lend someone an important book or tool and they fail to return it, which would probably happen about 100% of the time. So if something like that makes you angry, you'd have to learn not to loan a tool or a book or anything else out to somebody, because most of the time I think you're never going to see it again. But that would bother me. Why? A lack of closure, of course. You have had a busy day and the person you live with starts to complain about how you forgot to do something you agreed to. What did I rate this one? I'm afraid to lose my place if I move up too high. That was just a mild irritation type of thing, because if I forgot to do something, that's my problem, and I just go do it, get it fixed. Another one, you're trying to discuss something important with your mate or partner who isn't giving you a chance to express your feelings. For me, that was a high stress score, because they're not giving me a chance to express my feelings. Then not only am I not being understood and will try to be understood, but I'm also just not getting closure, because now I got to convince them that you're wrong. I don't want that perspective of me, so I got to correct it. And who knows when I can do that? So that would, something I would have to learn to handle better. Here's another one. You are in a discussion with someone who persists in arguing about a topic they know very little about. Not that big a deal, to me anyway. Someone sticks his or her nose into an argument between you and someone else. That doesn't bother me. You need to get somewhere quickly, but the car in front of you is going 40 kilometers an hour in a 60 kilometer an hour zone, and you can't pass. Well, obviously that would be really, really frustrating. Stepping on a lump of chewing gum. I've done that before. I've also stepped on a nail. I think I'd rather step on the chewing gum. I put that one in the middle because, you got to clean it up. And if it's not shoes that you wear in the house, maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just figure it'll come off itself in about 6 months, so you just don't do anything. Being mocked by a small group of people as you pass by, there's worse things that can happen, I guess, to get me upset. That really wouldn't be one of them. This one would be on my list. In a hurry to get somewhere, you tear a good pair of trousers, skirt, on a sharp object. Well, I listed that as very upsetting. Probably not because I tore something, because you just go buy it again, I guess, buy another one just like it if you like it that much, but because now it's going to take the time to change it, and maybe you'll be a little late. That bothers me. And not so much that I tore something, you can get it fixed, but if there's going to be a lack of closure, something's going to take longer than it should, that bothers me. And now this one here, this might be the last one on the list. I'm sure you have the idea by now. You used your last coin to make a phone call, but are disconnected before you finish dialing, and the coin is lost. Or, this has happened to me, put your last piece of change or bill in the vending machine, to get something that you really like, and maybe it's the last one there, and you can't get it because the thing's screwed up, and lack of closure. So knowing that about me, I like to think that I'm pretty consistent. I can tell my wife, look, you can tell by now these things bother me. The other day, well, it was early this morning because we go to bed so late, early in the morning, the internet wasn't working right. And it wasn't working right here on this computer. It wasn't working right on the laptop. It wasn't working right on the what do you call it, tablet. It wasn't working right on a phone that I had nearby. So I'm thinking, what in the world? How long is it going to take to get this fixed? What happened? Who can Isa fix this? Do I got to call the phone company? Call the phone company, and they who handles the cable too, and they figured that when they were doing an update, which is like between 2 and 5 in the morning, excuse me, that something didn't update. So we don't think it was because of all the cold weather we've had lately, but that's the first time that happened. Nothing was working, and I was starting to worry, thinking, man, let's get going here. I've got plans, and I don't know. It's just tough. Sometimes I think till the day I die, that's going to be hard on me. It just is. Maybe that's why I like getting up early, before I got married and our situation changed, and so I had time to recover. I don't know. So I want to go real quickly with these points in one of the articles. When especially situations that make you upset. Number one, keep proper perspective. They said anger typically comes from a narrow place. Expanding your view usually dilutes the intensity. Will you go hungry tonight? Do you have a terminal illness? Remembering what is important can help you check your temper. I agree big time. I've thought how I would feel if I lost my wife, my dream Filipina. I can't imagine anything worse than that. It also gives me substantial satisfaction, pleasing her, taking good care of her. So as long as I have her, that helps me change my perspective on these other things. And another thing, number two, imagine yourself as a 3-year-old and visualize yourself having a tantrum and looking ridiculous. 3, do something incompatible with losing your temper. They say some guys sing a song in their head, make a cup of coffee. Some guys read a favorite scripture or feel-good saying. Others, listen to music, their favorite song. Bottom line, they say you can't go up and down at the same time. 4, walk away. 5, is what they mentioned. Call your mother or your best friend, your pastor, or someone you trust. The point is refocus and allow yourself to be redirected. I've done that sometimes because I had to blow off so much steam. I needed someone to talk to. 6, go and get a glass of water for the person and yourself. They're talking about application of grace here, trying to be good to somebody that has upset you. 7, pray. 8, count backwards from 10. Well, I mentioned this, but with this twist. You've heard of counting to 10, now try counting backward. Requires more concentration. Plus, imagine one alternative to blowing up for every number. 10, they say, I could write a letter to his supervisor. 9, I could tell him about the time I was a kid and broke a window with a baseball. 8, I wonder what would happen if I apologized, even though I'm in the right, and so on. 9, concentrate on breathing. 10, let's see, write this list on an index card and put it in your wallet for immediate reference. That's a good idea. So as I close here with 5 common mistakes husbands make in the heat of the moment. And here's my example here. I have such a strong drive to settle things sooner rather than later. And right away would seem best to me. But when this gets blocked, I have resorted to sounding off with certain words to show my pain. Normally, I don't consider in the heat of the moment that I have just made things worse. Remember earlier when I explained how much I like closure? I have heard it said that anger is a goal blocked and depression is a goal impossible. That would aptly describe much of the 30 years I was alone before getting married. I went from being angry, like, what the heck is going on? Why can't I find anybody? To being depressed, and when it seemed hopeless. Depression is a goal, impossible. Um, I'm not going to mention those 5 common mistakes here because I want to finish up. That would mean that when I am angry, it helps to analyze if some kind of goal has been blocked. Even ask, if I am angry that a goal has been blocked, what emotions are coming into play? When I was single, it probably involved wondering if God had forgotten about me, if somehow others were better than I was because they could get a girlfriend or a wife. If maybe I wasn't being forgiven for something that happened a long time ago, or maybe I just didn't have it. Obviously, not being convinced any of those were true left me bewildered, angry, and after this goal of marriage had been blocked long enough, the inevitable depression. So, what are some of the most common mistakes husbands make in the heat of the moment? We'll get to that in part 4. I'll show you a list of typical mistakes and how we can correct them. And we'll do that right here on Love Beyond the Sea.